Now in this video, I'm going to try my hand at making a date wine. Hi, I'm Charles and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. Now there are no new members to report this time. However, I would like to give a special shout out to Julie Tardos for making a donation to the DIY Fermentation PayPal camera fund, trying to raise funds to purchase a new camera to replace my cell phone. You may have seen some of my earlier videos where I'm making the same play. All donations are gratefully accepted, and I would like to try and make this happen. So again, Julie, thank you. Now to make this date wine, I'm going to be using the following. Between 3 to 4 pounds of dates, roughly 3 cups of sugar. This time around, I'm going to be using a Red Star from Premier Rouge wine yeast. You can use whatever you got, but I'm going to try for a lower alcohol tolerance with this yeast of roughly 16%. The juice of 1/2 a lemon, which is going to be acting as our acid blend substitute. I'm going to boil up 1 black tea bag, which is going to act as our tannin substitute. I'm going to be using straining bags. Again, if you don't have them, don't worry about it. It's personal choice. I'm going to be using about 1 gallon of water. We are going to need something to do primary fermentation in, preferably something with a wide mouth opening. We are going to need something to do secondary fermentation in, because after about a week of it sitting here, we're going to transfer it to here, which means that we're going to need an airlock stopper to go along with that. And before everything else has been started, we're going to be using, in my case, Star Sans, which is my current sanitizer of choice, to make sure that everything is going to start out with a clean environment before we press on. And that's what I'm going to be using to make this wine. Now, I bought 2 pounds of pitted dates, and my friend Nono gave me 2 pounds of regular dates. Now, of course, as you can see, one's bigger than the other. But then again, also, one is going to have the pit, and that's going to have to be removed one by one. So we get rid of the pits, and then we chop these up, preferably without losing any fingers. It's a sticky operation, to be sure. And I will do this for the rest of the dates and get them into straining bags, or in my case, straining bags. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a slow process, but that is what I intend to do. All right, now that I finally got those dates chopped up, and I can say this, it was a very sticky affair. And in case anybody thinks that there's a quicker way of doing it, I can assure you, this did not work, all right? So it's pretty much a hand job there. Now then, what we want to do is we want to pour off a little bit of our water. This is filtered water, by the way. We'll pour off a little bit of our water, getting as much of it in the pan as possible to start our tannin substitute, which is what our tea bag is for. And as for the rest of the water, I'm going to go ahead and pour that in our pot. And we want to bring this up to a boil. All right, let's go ahead and cover that up, and let's turn on the heat over there. Let's turn on the heat over here, and let water do its thing. All right, now that our water has come to a nice good rolling boil, and on our tea bag side of the equation, that's done its thing, we're going to go ahead and turn off the heat on both of these, And we're going to go ahead and add our date, chopped up, minced up dates, to our water. The reason why we're using boiling water is, of course, to kill off any wild yeast that might have been on the dates, and to some degree kill off some of the bacteria that might be on there as well. We don't really want to cook the dates. We just want to try and do a bit of sterilization as possible. Now, if you don't want to use boiling water, of course you can use Camden tablets. But since we don't use Camden tablets on this channel anymore, this is my preferred way of getting around that. So what we need to do now is to let everything come down to near room temperature before moving on to our next step, which is adding the sugar. All right, while our mixture is still, it's hot, but it's not like, steaming hot. We're going to go ahead and add 3 cups of sugar. Seems to be a good time to do it. And we might as well go ahead and add our tannin substitute. And go ahead and let it come down to room temperature. All right, our date juice has cooled down. Next thing we need to do is that we need to get it from here into our fermenter. And it's always an interesting thing. My hands have been cleaned using Star San, which is my current sanitizer of choice. And so has my fermenter. So I guess I'll start by putting in the bags. It's always kind of a messy operation. That's why I do this over the sink. And let's see if I'm going to get lucky enough this time to be able to pour all this in. All right, here we go. I did it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off, save me the trouble from doing it later. And I want to go ahead and start adding my lemon juice / acid blend substitute and our yeast. All right, so now it's in there. I'm going to give it a good little swirl. And what I'm going to do now, before I put in my yeast, just out of curiosity, I'm going to take a hydrometer reading. All right, looks like our hydrometer reading is coming in at 1.132. All right, it's now time to add the magic powder that's going to turn this date juice into wine, which is our yeast. These huge straining bags in there. It's kind of hard to sprinkle it around evenly. Most of it's sitting on top of the bag, so we're going to go ahead and kind of get that incorporated just a little bit. I mean, you don't really need to stir it vigorously, but in case you didn't catch it, it doesn't hurt at this stage to aerate your musk to help that yeast out a little bit. You don't need to do it to incorporate or hydrate the yeast doing it this way, because you're going to end up stirring this for the next 3 days at least to help give a little bit more oxygen to your yeast. And with that having been said, all you need to do is just cover it up. And as I said before, you're going to stir it every few days or so, or once a day for at least the next 3 days. This fermenter does have a built-in airlock, so that I don't need to use a bubbler or anything like that. It'll just take care of itself. And that, my friends, is almost that. All we need to do now is just label our creation and then set it aside. Okay, we've got our creation labeled. We are making date wine. We started it on this date, and our original gravity reading was 1.132. All we need to do now at this point is just to let it do its thing with the daily stir to give it a little oxygen, probably for the next 5 to 7 days. After that, we'll do our initial rack into our secondary, and then subsequent racks every 6 to 8 weeks after that, until the wine is clear and we are ready to degas it if necessary, back sweeten if necessary, and then drink it, which will be necessary. So there we go. If you like what you see here, click on the subscribe button. I'll continue to do more of these. Again, I am seeking donations to get new camera equipment, so there's a link for that to my PayPal account, the channel's PayPal account, in the comment section below. And there we go. Date wine.